Stacey Luces. I am the host of Beyond the Quote podcast, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I am co-hosting, if you will, with a very special guest. I'll let her introduce herself. We literally met yesterday via phone, but we were introduced by some of the producers
Instant connection,
who felt that this would be an episode worthwhile for both of our communities. So introduce yourself, Demetra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Demetra Ganias. I am the host of MomCast, powered by the Local Moms Network. The Local Moms Network is a community of moms nationwide who helps moms feel seen and supported through these very long days but short years of motherhood.
I love that. And my community is comprised of moms and men, but mostly leaders, executives, founders who are in the thick of it. They are midlifing it with all of the things. And even if you are not a parent in the traditional sense, you will find strategies and amazing things that we're going to talk about. So we hope you stay tuned and find some value in that. What I share, and this is kind of for your audience, I talk about three things. I talk about redefining success. So traditionally, you know, women have this view of what success should be. So I talk about that. I talk about courageous leadership, which starts with leading yourself and your family and then going from there. And I also talk about living authentically. So we will get into that a little bit more. So tell me a little bit about kind of, I know we're going to trade like best podcast conversations.
Yes.
What's like one thing that you heard in speaking with women in the communities that you're in that really stopped you in your tracks?
I think this idea of being able to say, I am mom and I am woman all at the same time, and melding those two things means something different to everyone.
Yeah.
And what works for me and what works for you will look entirely different, and both are 100% valid.
For sure.
And both are 100% good enough.
Yeah.
And of course, the point is to look at other women and say, what do you know that I want to know? If you have something that works for you in your life, that's the nugget I want to take from this podcast and put it into practice in my home.
I love that.
So whatever your secrets are, if it's a mom hack, if it's a recipe, if it's a celebrity interview, if it's a, hey, I heard this about the mental load of being a mom, or the invisible load, you know, this vocabulary that didn't used to be there for moms, but now we have it. Let me use that to describe how I feel, because that helps me feel so validated in my journey, right?
Yeah.
So I think the different vocabulary, words, thoughts that any mom can bring to the conversation, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
And I want to share that with my audience.
Similar for me, it's two things. It is this power notion of putting myself first. And we hear that all the time.
So hard.
And as moms, it is the least likely priority is ourselves. I mean, to the point where when I was a new mama, you'd go hours without eating or even drinking water, right? So this notion of me first, and then from there, the wellspring of everything happens. And then the second notion of intergenerational support. I think
that sandwich generation.
Yes. But also I felt lonely as a mom.
Oh,
because
so
all of us were in the same stage of momming. And so now in hindsight, and I've got an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old for context, in hindsight, if I had had younger mamas that I could sort of mentor, for lack of a better word, or sort of show them different ways, hacks, and then people decades ahead of me that were just like, you know what, it's going to be okay. Like whatever it is you're worried about now, here's what we did. And
it would have changed my whole perspective on life
so much
if someone had said, just give it a couple years.
Yeah.
And when I say the phrase a couple of years, oh my God, that sounds like forever. It would have absolutely, you know, frozen me where I was to hear that. But those years do go by. And then you look back and like you said, I wanted to tell my younger self, you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Just hold on. It's okay if today you're in pajamas all day, every day.
I'm still in pajamas.
Whether you're breastfeeding or you're bottle feeding or you have 15 diapers around you, or whether you're getting dressed, getting out the door, sending your child to daycare, or if a nanny arrives, however it is that you're momming, it's hard for everyone, and just accept where you are.
Yeah.
This is my story. This is my journey.
Yeah.
Don't worry about everyone else so much.
Yeah. Contextually for like both communities, tell me kind of a little bit about your story and kind of what led you from where you are to where you are now.
I am a mom of 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old, boy, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 6-year-old son.
Okay.
So I'm a boy mom. I'm a girl mom. I got pregnant very easily with my first two. My first two are 14 months apart.
Got it.
You don't plan that. God
You
gives
do not.
you that. And
That's
then,
like twins without actually having the accolade of it.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
And then pretty much when you think, oh, this is going to happen for me when I want it to, it was not happening.
Sure.
And my third was born via IVF. So I'm an IVF mom too.
Yeah.
So I understand that journey, went through a miscarriage. So there are so many different sides of mothering
For sure.
that my life has touched on. And that makes me, I think, a more empathetic ear for any mom who comes in. I was also a mom who was full-time into her career, going 110 miles an hour as a news reporter and anchor.
Yeah.
I was in upstate New York, ended in Manhattan, and I thought, this is it. I have reached the pinnacle of what I wanted to do. And wouldn't you know, I hated it. And I was a freelancer and never really felt like I was that critical team member that I was in my other stations. And then I stopped cold turkey to be a mom and talk about an identity crisis.
Yeah.
Talk about my self-worth and my self-identity completely crashing. And I really had to redefine what it meant to be, as you're so curious about, what is success?
Sure.
Am I worthy if I am just momming?
And within the container of societal expectations, our own notion of what this should and shouldn't be and what we should and shouldn't do.
And of other moms saying,
Sure.
oh, wow, you gave up after all of that?
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah. For me, so I'm an immigrant, came here when I was 17. And
Where did you come from?
Trinidad.
Wow.
And so really lived the American dream, right? Like we hit the ground running. I was the eldest of 5. I like to laugh and say I came with half a suitcase because my sister had half and I had half. And literally that was it. My dad had like $40. And so being the eldest, I was thrust into this almost older son role and the third parent in this new paradigm of living in America. And so for me, it was really about success, like get your degree, get through college, get a job, support the family, and doing all these things in the context of navigating a new culture, a new environment, feeling different, very different, and got married to my best friend. We were friends for 5 years, then
What a blessing to say
some crazy dating in between. But my journey to motherhood was not easy. In between, so both my babies are rainbow babies. For both of you that don't know what that is, it's sort of you have a miscarriage and then you go through that process and then right after comes a baby. And so I had 3 miscarriages, 2 live births. My daughter Alyssa is 18, good Lord, and my son Adam is 14. So I would say my baby creating years were really traumatic, hectic. I was moving up in corporate very quickly. And like you, I had a really hectic travel schedule. And so it just was a blur. If I could take that decade back.
How long did it take you, do you think, to process those losses?
I'm still processing.
I'm sure.
I'm still processing. And it's something that I talk about very openly because, again, generationally, we don't speak about those things. I'm very open about my journey. I had a second trimester miscarriage, was probably the most traumatic. But I feel like motherhood for me with my daughter was very conservative. I was careful. I was scared. Like everything felt...
Couldn't fully enjoy the experience.
Because it was almost like she was an egg. My son, Adam's the younger one, very different. I was older. I had some years under me being a parent, but I had community. And I think with Alyssa, I didn't have community. And I also had an environment, I worked for IBM at the time, where a very robust nursing room, maternity leave, right? They really took care of me.
So quite an open-minded company.
Yes. And then the flip side with Adam, I worked for the federal government and they did not. They were like, pump your milk in the bathroom.
Tell us what you were doing for the federal government.
So I did strategic planning, strategic communications, and data analytics. And so I would lead offsites for the top leaders at the at FEMA, but also within my organization. And that came at a lot of
incredible career.
It came at a lot of stress and a lot of expectations. And I would stay late a lot. And so I'm talking to the moms that have the younger kids and are climbing the corporate ladder. The lack of boundaries as a new mom, that we sacrifice ourselves so much. I mean, if there's so many things, I wouldn't say I would do over, because I use those lessons now to empower the women I help in my coaching business. But my gosh, if we just shared more of these stories and
what would you
equip
say
them.
are some of the questions you would have asked of your new employers at the government? Because it's interesting that you went from somewhere that was so accommodating to somewhere that wasn't. Do you feel like you could have asked for some of those, I'm going to call them benefits, but really they're just basic needs that you had?
Here's the thing, right? I didn't think I could ask. Right? I think
Were you scared of retribution?
Well, I was scared that they would think I wasn't as serious about my career as the people that came early, stayed late, skipped lunch.
And that right there is what we have to change.
Yes. So in hindsight, I guess the first things first, know if you are going to stay at a company for longevity or it's a stint.
Ooh, I love that. Tell us what the difference is mentally.
So if it's a stint, let's say you are in your late 20s, early 30s, and you are newlywed and you are, or maybe not, but you're thinking about having a family, and you're looking for a job, I would say, and this is unpopular opinion, I don't think we can have it all at the same time. For me,
we can't, because we can't be in two places at once.
Sure. And
this notion that we can do it all is probably more damaging.
Knowing that you want a company that has a generous maternity and paternity leave, knowing that you care about the time with your newborn, knowing that you care about support for daycare, because some of them do give kind of stipends, or there's a daycare in the building. Have a plan for if you have a baby with special needs. Coming premature, both my kids, I went into preterm labor, and I had to go on full bed rest.
Wow.
So
work had to obviously accommodate
have a post-pregnancy plan that's not like just the same way you'd have a pre-delivery plan. Like, know that, hey, in the next 5 years, I want to try. In the next 5 years, I need to ensure that I have the best health care. Maybe you are on the standard plan for your health insurance. Maternity care is super expensive. And I know you went to the IVF round at IBM. That was generous. Federal government, not.
Right.
So kind of know that you are going into an experience of having a child, and look around the corners for that.
And I think that's some of the weight that is put on women.
Yeah.
That often
100%.
Even our husbands don't understand. Let's say we are already married. I mean, these connections that you're making between what is my personal life and my professional life, where are they intersecting?
Yeah.
That is a lot of mental work that women have to do that men never think about.
Well, then we get caught flat-footed, and then we have burnout. Because in my case, that's what happened. I burnt out spectacularly. Went up the ladder really quickly, and at 40, had emergency surgery and flatlined twice. So it's really deeply personal for me. Died and came back. Yeah.
Wow.
So I learned the hardest lesson. And I say that deliberately because, one, there's a shock factor to it. But two, it happened because of the choices I made and a lot of the expectation and pressure that I put on myself to be the best mom, the best wife, the best daughter, the best, all of the things we put pressure on ourselves for.
What were the signs that you were ignoring when that happened?
Well, there were some subtle and not so subtle ones. I think not so subtle is I was having health issues. And I think we put off physical activity. So maybe there's a little bit of weight gain. We, maybe our blood pressure is a little bit high, or we're borderline diabetic. These things happen, right? And we're like, oh, I'll just, that comes from when your adrenal system and your lymphatic system and you're in a state of constant stress. And new moms in general, we're hypervigilant.
Drained.
Yes. And so if you are a leader in this space and you are leading a team, leading big projects, right? A lot of us are overachievers. And so when you combine these things, it's a recipe for a massive burnout. And I think that a not so subtle sign, like you, I traveled a lot and I was always working, and but for me, I was giving my family security. I was very successful. I had a great career.
It's a lot of pressure to keep going.
My kids, and I always tell this story and people laugh, but I still hang this, and you'll understand why I'm saying that. So, there are some stores that have Christmas decorations 24/7. My kids we bought stocking stuffers for each other, and we didn't unveil until the night, Christmas Eve. And they bought my husband a motorcycle, and I was given a laptop, like a laptop ornament.
Isn't that interesting when our kids mirror back exactly what they see in us?
Yes.
And it smacks us in the face and we say,
smacks you in the face.
What am I projecting to my family and who do I want to be?
Yeah.
And it's hard.
So a lot of, and we talked about this yesterday. I think the misnomer is work-life balance. I think it's more about work-life integration. And I will tell you, as a mom coming up on, I can smell empty nesting, and it smells so good.
You're close enough.
Smells so yummy, you guys. You are going to have seasons with your children where they need different things from you. I think as newborns and in the toddler years, it's actually easier. You get a really good nanny or a daycare, and you have your best friends. You're going to mommy and me yoga, and and I know that that's coming from a place of privilege also, to say we can afford those things. Some people don't. They're single parents. Hopefully you have community, but they're actually easier at that stage, right?
I think little kids, little problems.
Yes.
Big kids, big problems.
And then they move into middle school. Your kids sound like they're in middle school, and the 6-year-old is in elementary. That's where things change for my kids. That's where self-consciousness came in. That's where comparison. That's where bullying came in. That's where some kids were vaping. And so we had to have talks about drugs. That's where we had to talk about, my daughter and menstruating and what that meant for boys and girls. We had to talk about respecting teachers, boundaries, like what they needed me differently, and I was still parenting myself.
And I would argue needed you more.
Yeah.
I think the weight of what we're answering when our kids are middle school and above is so much heavier.
So much heavier.
Because there are questions of character. Mm-hmm. There are questions
core
of
values.
What do you prioritize in life? Sure. Yes. Who are we as a family compared to that family? And what I will hear every single day is, but that's not what everyone else is doing. And it's not just, well, I don't care. I don't care about anyone else. I care about us. It's an opportunity to sit down and say, okay, well, what do we care about and why?
Yeah.
Why is this what we value? Yeah.
And let's layer blended families on that.
We're going to be different because we think different. Yeah. We value differently. Yeah. And in the end, I care about you and I'm not going to let us go down that path. Yeah. Even something easy, like my son will say, I want wireless earbuds. And I'll say,
do we have the same kid?
It fries your brain.
My kid said this. That's what
he
got for
Christmas. And he'll say, no, you're paranoid. Everyone else has them. And I'll say, oh, I love when you say that to me, because I'm not saying that those parents neglect their kids. What I'm saying is I have read about this. I'm not just blindly coming up with my opinion. Yeah. There's some background to this here.
There's a little bit of research. Yeah.
I just don't want this to happen. And you know what? I love you too much to let you hurt yourself. And if in 20 years I was wrong, oh, well, no harm, no foul.
I told my kids, and I mean, we're Gen X, right? Like we're kind of the same age. So we are at the end cap.
46 in a month. I feel like if I keep 47. Saying that, I'll feel more comfortable.
So we're on the end cap of Gen X, which this is what I say in layman's terms. I still want the safety and security of like a stable job and a mortgage and a house and to know where my next paycheck is coming from. But I also want to hug trees because we are close enough to Gen Y where we want to live our best life. So it's YOLO, but it's also like, oh no.
But the truth is, I don't want to look back on something and say, oh yeah, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I let you do it anyway.
I will tell you one of the most inspiring things I heard a couple of years ago. I was in this networking group, the Women's Executive Council down here in Florida. And this, oh my God, this distinguished looking, well, I mean, you saw this woman step into that stage and you understood what authority and sort of self-confidence was. She just wore her skin and her everything so well. And you're like
walking empowerment.
Right. And you're like, okay, one bra strap is like loose and like, do you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God. And she presented something that was I was dumbstruck, and I'm rarely dumbstruck. And the first slide said Me Incorporated.
Me Incorporated.
Yep, Me Inc. And she said, I am a corporation. Me. This is my board of directors. She had her husband, her mother, and a couple of good friends, and a couple of, whatever.
There's your village right there.
Correct. And then she went further. She's like, here's how we all work together. Here, because she had a big job, right? And twin boys. And she was an older parent. So I think in her mid or late 40s at the time. Again, the boys came from IVF. So in this big, huge role with these new babies, she moved mama in, paid her, right? She understood what she needed. And again, we're talking from a place of massive privilege here. But the concept of Me Inc. changed my life.
That's mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing and simple.
Because it is so powerful to ask for what you need.
Yes.
Number one, to recognize it, to really sit down and think, what do I need?
Yeah.
Where can it possibly come from? Mm-hmm. And how do I make it happen?
And mobilize your board of directors, for lack of a better word, to move in the same direction to ensure not only the success of the family, but the prosperity of the family, and make sure shit wasn't falling through the cracks. I sat there, like I said, dumbfounded.
I think when people talk about, when moms talk about the people who help them raise their kids, who are in with them, who love their children like their own, who see their future playing out and want to play a positive role in them, we can't possibly love anyone more. If someone does something for my child,
sure,
I put you on a pedestal and I say thank you, because I know that I can't do this alone.
So much gratitude.
And the amount of heartache and time that it took me to come to the realization that even if I'm where I was in my house, I did not have immediate family near me. Someone couldn't drop off some food or just come stay for 10 minutes so I could take a shower. And I wore it as this badge of honor that I'm doing it all on my own. And by the way, 10 years later, it's a chip on my shoulder that I did it all on my own. So am I proud of myself? Hell yes. I am so proud of myself because I did something that felt impossible to me and I got past it. But I also would love to take myself 10 years ago and shake her and say, it's okay to ask for help. And you know what else? It's okay to demand the help. Because asking is one thing, but saying, I will not take less than what I need is something I didn't have the courage to say.
And
my husband is a great partner and he loves me and he supports me, but what does that mean? I needed action to be taken around me and I didn't demand it.
When we talk about redefining success, right, and living authentically and, leading courageously, none of these things should only be taken in a corporate or business context. They should start first with Me Inc., right? And so for whoever's listening, sitting with your partner, the co-parent in some cases, and maybe it could be 3 or 4 parents if it's a blended family, and really sitting down and having a family plan. We have a strategic plan for work. We've got a vision, mission, strategic objectives. We've got a budget for our companies and our lives and our jobs. Why couldn't we do that for arguably the things most precious to us?
I think it takes hearing it. And I think that's something that's missing without community. I think that's why I'm so passionate about saying, how do you, mom? And in the next episode, how do you, mom? And the one after that, how do you, mom? Because it's never going to look the same, but I want to extract every bit.
They're all the ingredients.
Of knowledge and ingredients. What does it take for you?
Yeah.
And what can I borrow from your plan? What can I say to my children at the dinner table tonight that I didn't know yesterday? And I think that's what's so powerful about hearing stories. And again, I'm going to go back to this vocabulary. if I had been able to say, there's a mental load to mothering, and here's what it looks like. Yeah. It's not just packing the lunch. It's making a list of, wait a minute, your school, you can have nuts, so you can have the peanut butter. Wait, your school, you cannot. Here's your alternate snack.
Managing 17 project plans in your head.
What does this kid like and not like? Yes. What is kid 1, 2, and 3 like?
And dental appointments.
What am I running? Oh my gosh. And that's just making lunch.
Yeah.
Add orthodontia, add your doctor's appointments, and let's add, what about your mental health? What about your physical health? What about your extracurriculars?
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of men might have rolled their eyes hearing this. But the truth is, if you watch the moms in your life and you really do look at them as
they're running a little
humans,
corporation. Yeah.
They are. And honestly, that's what I say to my kids, even when it comes to, well, why do I have to fold my laundry and put it away? Even if it turns out like a mess. Because we're a family and we're a business here and everybody needs to have input.
Yeah.
And yes, it's your job to be a student and to try everything you like.
But they can also lead us.
Why not?
They can also lead us.
Absolutely.
That was probably the most compelling shift in parenting for me, was allowing my preteens and teens to lead us in a different way of parenting and almost relearning how to parent ourselves. Because growing up in a specific generation, you have very specific things you've seen and that was echoed and that is kind of conditioned into you. Sure. And now with my nieces and nephews, and that's why I say this is really for not only whatever the true definition of a parent is, you gave birth to a child, but a lot of you are, I call them tangential parents, right? The sisters, the aunts, the uncles, the friends. My kids love some of our friends, hanging out with them because they are more apt to let them do, quite honestly, dumb shit that we wouldn't let them do, and they love it.
Of course.
Because
they love your
it.
kid, but they also let them have a lot more fun.
And so, hey, and here's the thing, right? I don't want to say if you don't have that network, go get it. But there's meetups. There's all of these Mommy and Me clubs.
Yes.
Like, you can go to the YMCA. I mean,
this is what the Local Moms Network does.
Yes.
We're 140 hyper-local sites around the country.
Tell me about, like, in Florida. What does that look like?
Okay, great. So, for example, there's a Miami Moms. Mm-hmm. You're going to look in Miami and you're going to say, what neighborhoods have what events going on?
Sure.
If I need to find a dentist, if I need to find a daycare, if I need to find after-school activities, if I want, a new mom meetup, let's all put those resources in one place to do one thing.
Sure.
Save mom's time.
Yes.
What's the one most precious commodity
and it's vetted.
That moms have?
It's vetted. It's credible.
Vetted.
Like, that's all we need.
Listen, each mom in these communities are an expert because they live there. We're not someone coming in from the outside and saying, here's what we think is the best. Each mom in her own suburb, in her own city, lives there. She sees it. She lives it. She knows who's trustworthy.
Yeah.
What's really the class that people like? What is the area like? If I'm new somewhere, I'm going to go straight to the Local Moms Network and say, okay, tell me what I need to know. Because moms don't have a lot of time. So we cut that process out.
Cut through the noise quick.
Yes, and just give you what you need to know.
Yeah.
But in turn, it's also this opportunity to say, who gets me? Who can I complain to? Because this isn't complaining, this is commiserating. We need another woman who's going to understand us. And I'm going to say, oh, really? Well, I don't have your same background as an immigrant. But you know what? My parents are Greek immigrants. And this idea of education first and work ethic second, and put those two together, and that's your answer to living life. This is the American dream. We're going to connect on that.
Yeah.
And this idea that, see and not be heard so much.
Oh my goodness.
And do as I say and not as I do. I feel that in my bones. That's how I was raised. We're also trying to break some generational
Tell me what they said.
Trauma, right?
Tell me what they said, because you said something that I filed away in my head, but it's coming back to the forefront now. Tell me what they said when you said you were leaving your job and kind of wanting to do, like, when you took your hands off that wheel, what happened?
Well, who's going to provide for you?
Sure.
And how are you going to make it work?
Yeah.
And listen, it's old school to them also to have a husband work and provide for his family. But at the same time, what were you talking about? The aunties, the friends, the whoever. Okay, well, I don't have aunties around. I don't have grandparents around. And they did. Right. So I say, each of us has this experience, and I'm going to parent the best way I know how. So do the older generations agree entirely? No, they don't. But I think they're also seeing this growth, right? I'm asking my children, what are you feeling that you're acting out? It's not just about repercussions and discipline. What are you thinking? What's going on? You don't typically act like this. Let's sit down and have a conversation. I don't think that happened in my house.
No, not at all.
But I'm trying to do that.
Sure.
And I don't think it's under this guise of, gentle parenting, you're letting them get away with murder. Well, you know what? It is gentle in a way, but there are firm boundaries. But I want to know you as a person. What makes you tick?
I think it's authentic parenting. I am very honest with my children in a way that even to this day, the older generation has not been with us. And me and my cousins and my sisters, even my friends, we talk about this a lot, that we don't actually know much about them. The really deep inner core of who they are. And
they didn't allow us to see.
Sure. And they still have a hard time. And I don't know if it's shame or inability to sort of articulate or be vulnerable. I can't put my finger on it. And I've learned to sort of accept that they are who they are, and I'll get just this much and be content with that to some extent. Push a little bit. But my mom had miscarriages, for example, never talked about it. And then
you might not have known.
My aunts had. And then when I started talking about it, they're like, oh yeah, we did too. But just real nonchalant. Meanwhile, some of my younger cousins were bawling their eyes out because it happened to them and they didn't have anybody to talk to. Worse, they thought it hadn't happened to anybody else. And there was this shame around, I did something wrong and my body betrayed me. Do you know what I mean? And so that's where we missed an opportunity for healing, strengthened relationship, and oh, by the way, modeling for our children this concept that we can grow together not only in joy, i.e. baptisms and christenings and Christmas, but in heartache. And I think that's the missing link that I'm trying to work on with my tribe right now.
Doesn't that give you so much more empathy for your mom?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Who had to go through something and, it's just the way it is, get over it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something so traumatic that
and the comment,
had to bottle
just
up
try
inside.
Again.
Yes. Well, you know what? What else do they know to say?
Sure.
I mean, the truth is that's the only option they had. Try again.
And it's not a judgment on any of them, to the older generations listening. It's just we're really being honest about just some of these shifts in language, to use your word, that really changes the way that this generation is going to accept and give all of these things that matter: kindness, empathy, true connection. You probably talk about this on your podcast, but one of the things that's been fascinating to me these past weeks is this concept that we are in a loneliness epidemic in spite of being as connected as ever. And I think for moms in particular, pulling back the thread on when you were saying you did it alone, there's almost this ego stroke about us marching forward, the Superwoman cape, and I'm like,
and I don't want to be a victim.
Meanwhile, our hair is dropping out, and right,
yes, yes. There's so much that goes with it, but I have several thoughts. First, the basis of the podcast is when we know better, we do better.
Sure.
So that allows a grace, right? Yeah. But it's also a challenge. Well, now that I know that this is quote unquote better, let me try that. So I think there's both. There's an ability to see a weakness, a mistake, or just a shift in the way we think and say, okay, that's exactly what it is. Now I know. And then there's also this opportunity to say, but now I have to step up. Now that I know this, what am I going to do about it? And I think moving forward to this idea of our ego, right? Get the ego out of the way.
Sure.
Because it really is a barrier. I mean, for me, I was in New York City with a newborn.
Yeah.
What were there, 10 million people in New York? And I was alone.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling. And that's also something that I sat in the muck of this soup and I wish that I had stepped out and said, okay, I need help. Yeah. I can't be the only one, right? And I did have a group of moms who I went to a birthing class with, and we knew them, and their kids were my baby's first friends. But I think I had to really let down my guard and say, I'm not doing well. So I don't know that I had postpartum depression so much, but I think I just was generally feeling depressed because I had this vision of motherhood, right? These multi-generations stepping in to help. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I didn't see that around me. So I said, wait a minute, where is my village? Yeah. I thought it was going to be this. Why do people move to the place where their parents are once they have parents? Why do you move back home, quote unquote? Because you want that. And I feel like I was very stubborn, and it was beating my head against a wall and saying, I can do this.
I want to offer a perspective too.
Oh, please.
That a lot of, and I'll speak for myself and the women I predominantly work with, so they are still in corporate for the most part, still starting their own business. I left corporate after my burnout, quit, walked away from high six figure, like I quit and I literally reinvented. So for me, it was very dramatic in the sense of I died and came back, everything had to be different. But for most people, a couple of things happen when you are having a midlife, I don't want to call it a crisis, I call it like a midlife awakening. And in our 40s and 50s and probably early 30s, there is a push, a voice, an echo that is undeniable within us that screams, is this all there is? And I think if you have latched on to your identity of motherhood to the point where I look at some of my circles where they're bemoaning the fact that their kids are taking flight, going to college and being independent, I can't wait. To me, that is the culmination of my version of success is they can thrive without me.
That's your pat on the back that you gave them what they need to do it.
But it's hard. And it's sort of, I have to sort of decouple me from them at some point. And I feel like the work doesn't start when they're 18 going to college. Yeah. It starts pre-teens in middle school in these formative years where really we are a bridge to them becoming adults. And they're going to ebb and flow. It's going to be messy and chaotic and beautiful and gross sometimes. But we're going to have to teach them, here's your relationship with alcohol, maybe smoking or vaping. I know in middle school that was like a big thing. Here's your relationship with sex. Here's your relationship with comparison. Here's what's going to happen when you get your heart broken by maybe your best friend that kissed a guy you had a crush on. Like, it gets real.
It gets so hairy.
It gets so
and I'm listening
hairy.
To you saying, oh gosh, that's all going to happen. I'm on the precipice.
But if you kind of walk that line between, hardcore parenting, but also opening the door for a relationship that is very different. And we worked with a teen coach a couple of years ago, and he, really talked about that being a bridge. You literally are their bridge from preteen to adulthood. And these formative years are so critical.
You're shepherding them through.
Yes,
you're their North
for
Star.
us and them.
Jennifer Wallace, one of our guests who I think really blew my mind because I've been parenting differently since the moment I spoke to her and read her book. And she is so, she makes it incumbent upon us to tell our kids they matter outside of their grades, their activities, everything that supposedly gives them their worth.
Yeah.
And she says so many good nuggets, but even just something small like lead with lunch. When your kids get in the car, what I really want to say is, how did that math test go? Yeah. What happened with that history quiz? Yeah. I want to know all the goods. Yeah. But lead with lunch and just, what'd you have for lunch today? Who'd you sit with at lunch today? Something that small, if I do it every single day, helps my kid to know I matter beyond the things that I do.
The achievement.
My worth, that's her book.
Yes.
About toxic achievement.
Yes.
And that to me said, wow, okay, it's about me being the example. So if all I ask you about is how much did you score in today's game?
That's how they're going to see their worth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to give them not only the ability in our families to talk about something else, but, okay, how are you going to matter in your community? Where are you volunteering? You're cleaning out your closet, which you might do anyway.
Yeah.
What organization do you want to give your things to? Okay, well, it's Christmas or whatever event is coming up, and you might say, who should we give something to make this holiday feel special for someone else? In our families, how can you feel special? And even if it is loading the dishwasher, even if it is putting your laundry away in your drawers, matter here beyond the things that you do that you get graded for and get accolades for.
And to build on your concept of this mom network in community, one of the things we do as a family is the beginning of the year, we pick 4 charities, and each human in the house gets a charity that's close to their heart. Whatever's floating their boat at that moment. Right. So whether it's the Humane Society or it's, one of our dear friends passed from cancer, so the kids were really interested in that. Habitat for Humanity. I was big in Women in Distress, which is domestic violence, because I went to a couple events and it just really shocked me that 1 in 4 women was experiencing domestic violence. And so we pick a charity, and every month we find a way to give back. And so it doesn't always have to be monetarily. It can be volunteering in the community or talking to someone or bringing it up at school and kids are talking, or you're writing an essay. So I feel like having these core building blocks, in addition to what we really want to ask is, hey, you got a 90 on this test. What happened to that 10%?
Because it's there and it's okay.
But building character, right?
Yes, but imagine that example you're setting. This is something that your kids are going to take with them.
Oh, yeah. Even as leaders, because we're building the future, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My kids hated me. I made them write thank you notes for Christmas gifts. And of course, what do they say? No one else does this. And I said, exactly. Think of, number 1, the smile and the heartwarming moment they're going to get when they go to their snail mail, right? And open up a thank you note.
Yeah.
Who takes the time to write this? No one. And that's exactly why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because we need to show gratitude. We need to be able to write our feelings down on paper. I know that's shocking to you, that it's not, ILY, I love you in a text,
Oh my gosh, those abbreviations, yes.
Write a rough draft and then write it nicely in your best writing. I mean, these are mind-blowing concepts to kids who text and email and are one day going to be on social media.
What do you say to the moms? And I'll answer the question too, but what do we say to the parents where it's all well and good for you guys to talk about that, but who has the time? I can barely use the bathroom. What do we say? Because I think what we're talking about may be perceived by some as, where am I going to find the time to incorporate those things on top of Me Inc.?
I start with one place.
Yes, I love that.
Go to your phone and show me how much time you spent on it this week.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me you don't have time? If I have 5 minutes a day at the end of the week, that will be 35 minutes. And you're going to tell me I only spend 5 minutes a day on my phone? So if everybody went on their screen time, even if it's my 6-year-old on an iPad, don't tell me you don't have time. And I think, I extrapolate this out for them, Okay, well, someone says you need 100 hours to be exceptional at something. That's 17 minutes a day or 18 minutes a day. Someone's done that, right?
So you've broken it down into bite-sized pieces.
I've made it even easier. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm scrolling on Instagram, I find these nuggets. And you know what I do? I hit save. And I save them for my kids. And I say, there is crap on social media. But guess what? I found for you these nuggets. And I will play it for them.
Yeah.
And it will be, one of these business people who says, here's how you get to your 100 hours. Okay, save that little nugget. A video about showing kindness and, just go back 20 minutes from everybody that's annoying you, that's driving slow on the road, that's, taking their time in the line. Go back 20 minutes from that event. And everybody has a story. And of course, I saw this on I'm not making this up. I'm not a therapist.
We're quoting experts here.
I'm literally saving Instagram posts. It's not that hard, but just something that makes them think differently. So I'll say, okay, they like short form. You want a little YouTube short on how to be kind or how to be responsible with your money, or how to
meet them where they are,
on how to be a better athlete. Oh, you don't want to eat your good food? Okay, great. Well, guess what? I saved you. I say, this is your favorite pitcher in Major League Baseball talking about what he eats. You're not going to listen to me? That's fine. Listen to him. And guess what? My son does.
Mine too.
Because my kids don't want to hear from me.
Of course.
And it is my privilege that allows me to say, I'm paying away problems by saying, this person's helping you do this, and that expert is helping you do that. So maybe you can't do that, but anybody can save an Instagram post.
And for folks that can't do what we do, outsource some of that, there's a really quick way I teach women how to right size their life. And we've all had pie.
Sure.
So picture a circle.
Apple, please.
Yes, I like coconut cream pie. Picture a circle, picture 5 quadrants. And for the most part, all of humanity cares about 5 things loosely. One is health. The other one is spirituality. What's your connection to what higher purpose, God, however you define that in your life. The other one is career. How are you literally, right? The other one is community. So kind of what parts of your life, your friends, people call it friends and family, whatever community means to you. Maybe it's even coworkers, right? And the other one is really finance / kind of legacy. And every human cares about these things. And maybe for me, because I was diagnosed with an autoimmune, maybe my slice of the health pie has to be bigger. It has to take more focus now. Maybe for our kids, the piece of the pie that's bigger is school. That's where they spend most of their times. They're doing group projects, whatever. Maybe for some of us, it's our career, right? So I think knowing where you are in the pie quadrant creates a priority list for you. But as a family, we look at each other's pies. Where's your pie? And
to help them shift?
To help them have perspective. And to help me understand where I need to interject into their pie. If they're struggling with, so my daughter got diagnosed with a pediatric autoimmune fairly early on. And I suspect I had it also at that age, which is why I caught it in her, because the changes that she was experiencing mimicked me when I was 15, 16. And I had to push so hard to get the test done, but we caught it. And so she's in this window where she can...
Well done, Mom. Good for you.
Listen, that's a whole other podcast with F-bombs. But she has a window to shift and almost reverse that in a way that, if she had caught it in her 30s or 40s, it would not have been that way. And so I understood that I had to interject in the health pie and help her with her diet, a very specific AIP, autoimmune protocol diet, with blood work. We as a family coalesced around that. And so I think for me, I had a hysterectomy a year and a half ago, out of the blue. So they interjected and were helping me prep meals. My daughter helped me take a shower. So I'm just saying, as a family unit, there are things we can do to support each other in the seasons of life. If one of our kids is struggling with mental wellness, maybe some stuff is going on in school and they're not quite sure they fit in or whatever, how can we support them? And I think having pie conversations.
But I want to stop and applaud you. Just what seems normal to you because you knew how to do that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
To show your children that we need to show up for one another. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not the typical role of a daughter to wash her mother's hair.
Yeah.
But mom is going through something extraordinary and unexpected. And we're going to help her through that. I mean, talk about mattering.
And empowering them, like I said, to lead us.
They're capable.
They are so capable.
They're so capable. And, imagine the self-esteem that you grew in her.
My son called a family meeting when I got diagnosed with the autoimmune a couple of years ago, he literally said, guys, we need a family meeting with his tiny little baby voice at the time. Now it's like cracking and all over the place. I think he was maybe 9 or 10. He discovered Beyond Beef. He played the YouTube video. Mm-hmm. He researched a restaurant in Boca that served Beyond Beef. It was the worst burger we had ever eaten, but as a family we went and everybody supported me and had a no burger.
He led the family.
Yeah, he led the family and we were chewing it and it tasted like
cardboard.
And we're like, this is so good, right? And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And it was just an emotional moment for me where he led us to, and I found eventually things that I loved, but that the leadership that he took.
And so much love.
So much love.
In a little person.
And you could see their eyes watering, chewing the cardboard.
He regretted his decision.
But I want us to sort of shift, because we're talking about redefining success, right? And success in parenting probably means Ivy League college to you, or do you know what I mean? Like shift what that means.
I think it's really difficult because we are high achievers ourselves, right? And we don't want to negate.
Listen, until you have a massive burnout, until you almost die. Yeah. I work with people in their, I think my most seasoned client, as I would say, she's 83. If I am trying to figure this out in my 80s, good on me for still having that growth mindset and wanting to evolve myself at that age. But also podcasts like this, like conversations like this, allow us, it's a hack. Do it in your 30s, do it in your 40s.
The trajectory is harder when you're in your 80s.
Sure.
So good on you, but what's the path in front of you?
Yeah.
If we can stop ourselves earlier, if we get an injection of self-esteem, what I would have needed 10 years ago is an injection of dignity to just say, Demetra, take these 8 years, love on your kids, give everything of yourself to them. And number one, it's going to pay off. And number two, you're going to get to the other side. You're going to get back to you. And no one ever said that to me, not for lack of love, but they just didn't know to say it. And I don't think as moms we had that conversation. 10 years is a long time.
Sure.
I think the conversation around what do moms need?
I think it's a truthful, it's a realistic, and I think we have to be really truthful that some of the things we're talking about takes not only complete consistency, but years.
We're evolving.
But not only, we're never going to master it. We're never going to be perfect at it. We don't. It is the journey. That's always going to be the journey. Nobody has the shit figured out.
And that's why building this community of not just contributors to our website at the local Moms Network, but now there's this podcast. And what I want to do is dig in. What a gift to sit with you for these 30, 40, whatever minutes and just say, God, now I'm energized. Those two things that you said, two things. A woman who has been through X number of experiences said that it's okay for me to this, that I have permission to do that. Yeah. You know that hack she used? I'm going to do that too. What a gift. Yeah. And I just want to be open to that. I want to be open-minded and just receive your light, receive all of your experience and say, I can do better because of you.
I love the work that you guys are doing.
We're not competing.
No.
You shine in your own right.
If I had the resources that you guys are providing 20 years ago, even 15, heck, it's a game changer. It's a life changer. Let's use the right words. I also, a pain point for me in my life right now is, you use the word permission. I was in I gave a workshop to about 20 women. These are badass women, right? And it's called Own Your Power. And the amount of time that word permission came up. And I think you and I were chuckling about this. One of the things we talk about is give yourself permission for self-care. Get that mani-pedi. And I'm like, that's basic hygiene.
Yeah. That is not my self-care.
Do you know what I mean? Like self-care is meditation. It's mental acuity. It's if you don't have people in your circle that are non-toxic, because some of us have really toxic environments that we're in, right? Whether it's alcohol abuse, whatever it is, you get to create a fifth persona from podcasts like these, from books, from social media, like curate a clean stream of parenting. One of the parenting gurus I follow it's Dr. RJ, R as in the letter, J as in the letter, right? He was the one that did our teen coaching at the time, because I was like, I am an executive coach. I am XYZ. I've got all these degrees, and I was floundering at parenting my teenagers. I couldn't catch the ball. And so we signed up, and really, chuckle. It wasn't really coaching our teens.
It's coaching the parents.
It's coaching the parents. But it really changed not only me years ago, but the way that I coach women, the way that I engage with these conversations for the ones that are moms. And it doesn't stop when we have adult children that don't live with us, because guess what? There's so much regret sometimes. And there's an inability to connect with our grown adult children who now may or may not have kids. And guess what? They don't want to be around us. I have clients dealing with that right now.
But think about what you said, that you were exceptional in so many ways and floundering as a parent.
Floundering.
Of course.
Flopping like a fish.
Because we're not meant to know everything.
No.
Like, why would you be the perfect parent?
Yeah.
What is in your history that says you should be perfect at this? Mm-hmm. And again, that's the barrier that we're breaking down, to be able to say, I'm great at this and that, and I'm going to do what business people say. I'm going to hire my weakness. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's the most beautiful phrase when it comes to outsourcing, but also asking for help. Yeah. A therapist once asked me, so what are you doing for yourself?
Did it stump you? It stumps me sometimes.
I had nothing to say.
Yes.
And I said those silly things like, well, I'll go out to lunch with a friend once in a while, or I'll go for a walk, or okay. The walk or the exercise needs to be every day for your physical health and your mental health.
Yeah.
You're going to pull out your pull out your calendar. Mm-hmm. Why is everything for everyone else, from the dishwasher repairman coming to the orthodontist appointment, to drop this kid off at that practice, then that daughter off at that audition or rehearsal? Where are you?
Can I give you a secret tool?
Tell me.
And I don't know if you guys can do this at the local levels. Women, we show up for someone else better than we show up for ourselves many times. And I know that if I have an accountability partner, that I will show up for the walk, for the conversation, for the whatever it is, in a way that I would not do for myself. And one of the things I teach is, how do we regain integrity with ourselves? Because our inner us does not trust us to fulfill the promises we've made, because we break it every day. We break it every day. So there is no trust between ourself with ourself. That's a bitter pill, but it is what happens. And so if you create this concept of an accountability partner, a tertiary, create a contract, literally. Another strategy that I employ is, and I'll ask you, when you envision a guardian or taking guardianship over someone, what does that mean to you?
Safety, stability, and guidance.
And love and kindness, right?
Yes, love.
So I ask people to assume guardianship over themselves for 30 days.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah. It changes your life.
I think the best way that I have modeled loving myself is when I say the words out loud. Like, well, Mom, why can't you do this with me? And I'll say, you know what? I'm going to go do this for half an hour because I promised myself I would. In saying out loud, I promised myself. Number one, ensures that I'm going to go because I just said it.
And you have to rebuild that trust with yourself.
I'm trying to model that for my kids, that the taking care of me is not optional. And it took a very long time for me to get there. But using those words, again, because I'm a public speaking coach, the words are powerful. and I'm going to say them, number one, for myself, and number two, for you.
But if you have a broken, and most of us do, a broken relationship with ourself, our child self, our adult self, and we can't trust our own word, that takes time. And it takes consistency of effort, and it really takes even meditating, apologizing to ourselves. But it also, the work doesn't end. But I think I love what you said about writing it down, saying it out loud. And I tell my kids, I'm like, my blood work isn't where I wanted it to be. A couple, maybe a year and a half ago. I said, can you guys, the resources I have right now, I can't do core gym work because I had the surgery, so I couldn't go lift weights, right? I said the resources I have right now to be fit and healthy are walking, because we live in Florida, thank God, no snow.
Thank God.
Walking the dog, walking with one of you, because then we can spend some time together. And I asked for their help to keep me, and this is going to sound really weird, I didn't have faith that I would keep my own promise to myself. So I enlisted them to help me keep the promises that I was making to myself. And they showed up in a way that was and we got to spend time together. They got to see me vulnerable and not this powerhouse that put on a suit and went to work at the Pentagon and all of that stuff. Because that's what they perceived of me. So it's this weird dynamic that's shifting and allowing them to engage with you differently.
What a great way to seem human.
Yes.
Because we put ourselves up on a pedestal, right? We're the authority, we're the parents, and we can parent from there, and sometimes we
think that's what we need to, but we don't.
But I think to literally get down on their level and look in their eyes, which is a tactic that I learned long ago and for my third kid, he gets the best of me because I've learned so much along the way.
I'm laughing because,
And I will literally kneel down and look at his eyes, and I'll think to myself, why didn't I do this with the first two? And I'm sorry. And I find myself apologizing a lot, but I feel so much more comfortable now taking myself down off the pedestal and saying, I messed up. I made a mistake. I handled this the wrong way.
Yeah.
I screwed up. Can we talk this through?
Yeah.
Or let me explain to you why I did this and how I'm going to do it differently next time. I think that is the most
That's so powerful
change that I have made from the parents I had to the parent I want to be. The ability to say, I'm sorry.
I love that.
And I work every day to take myself off that pedestal because it also takes the pressure off of me. So, okay, I screwed up. But if I feel comfortable saying, I made this mistake and I'm sorry and here's how I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
They will call me out on it the next time. And it's like, okay, you feel so good about yourself that you're going to say, Mom, don't talk to me that way. That's it right there. I have done my job. You're going to demand better of the people around you than I demanded when I was your age.
And and we leave it at that. Empowered parents empower each other and also the generations to come. And that's literally, if we took this to the penultimate outcome that we want, it's that they have better lives than we did, that they are better humans than we are.
And that confidence that you talked about, sending them out into the world.
Yeah.
And sure,
I am glad you don't need me. You will always need me
a little bit.
But I want you to actively just light it up.
To celebrate them going and being who you taught them to be.
Yeah, I love it. This was so good.
This was awesome. I'm thrilled to know you.
Same here. So tell people, my listeners, your listeners know where to find you, but tell my listeners where they can find you.
I am at the Local Moms Network on Instagram. We're thelocalmomsnetwork.com. And I'm on Instagram at Demetra Ganias.
I love it. So I am Stacey Luces. This is Beyond the Quo, QUO, which is status quo. You can find me on Instagram at Stacey, STACEY.Luces, LUCES, or StaceyLuces.com. And this has been amazing and inspiring.
Tell me what day your podcast drops every week.
My podcast drops on Wednesdays.
Okay, and we're Tuesdays. So we'll be looking out for new episodes.
And we will share and amplify. And oh my gosh, this is one for, and it doesn't have to be for parents. It's for everybody.
I feel so empowered.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're a gift.
You too.